afternoon, everybody. Salam alaikum. I have the great pleasure of introducing this titan of industry, Jack Hidary. Jack, your energy on the subject matter that we're going to tackle today is just contagious and has been contagious throughout this conference.
Hola, Mariana. Great to see you.
Hola, Jack. Jack habla español también.
Sí, por supuesto.
But we're going
to speak in English today.
We are going to do this in English. So when people think about AI, they think about large language models. But what is the next wave of AI, in your view, that's really going to transform the landscape in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, Mariana, it's a very exciting time. Obviously, AI is on everyone's mind. AI is being spoken about in every corner. And we can think of AI, of course, as artificial intelligence, but also augmented intelligence. How do we extend our abilities? How do we extend the abilities of our companies, our governments, with AI as well, with this new digital intelligence? And yes, large language models have a great place now in our society. If you want to summarize huge documents, if you want to generate new kinds of content, media. We just heard earlier today from the media panel about how we can create new movies and new music with AI. Very, very exciting times. But even a bigger market is the quantitative world. When we look at the biggest sectors of our economy, when we look at the energy sector, the biopharma sector, other sectors around, for example, quantitative finance. These are 10x, 20x the size of the language model market because these are the biggest parts of the GDP of the world.
So in other words, it's not AI to summarize what's on the internet or Wikipedia. We're talking about large quantitative models,
Exactly.
LQMs.
Large quantitative models, LQMs, yes.
And we're going to talk about LQMs throughout the rest of the conversation for those who want to understand the abbreviation. Now, for those of us in the room, and I include myself in this, many of us can hear quantum and get scared. So how do you explain LQMs in layman's terms?
Well, basically, our world is made of relationships. And so when we think about, for example, if we were playing billiards and I would hit the white ball, it hits the red ball, goes in the pocket, there's a certain relationship. And Isaac Newton, 300 years ago, told us what that relationship is. And so with that same relationship, we could send people to the moon and to space. And so that's a set of laws that we have from Isaac Newton. But there's another set of laws that actually govern how molecules work. And so when we want to create a new treatment, a new drug, for Alzheimer's, for Parkinson's, for cancer, for these very, very critical diseases, there are equations for that too. And now for the first time, we've trained AI to know those equations. And so we can't use ChatGPT for this. We can't use large language models for this because that's trained on words. This AI is trained on the understanding of chemistry and our world.
So why then is it uniquely suited to solve complex problems like in the field of life sciences?
Well, in the field of life sciences, it's a very, very daunting challenge. Let's look at the stats. Right now, it takes 5 to 10 years to develop a drug even before you get to clinical trial, before you put it in the first human patient. And then you have the human trials, takes another 5 to 7 years. And here's the most challenging statistic. What is the failure rate of drugs that come into trial and try to get out of trial? 90% failure rate.
That's
90% of the drugs, Mariana, that go in never come out. And so how do we change that? How do we use AI to change that? To do that, we have to start right at the beginning. Right when we make that drug, when we conceive of that drug, we want an AI that can take a drug idea and make 100 million versions of it, 1 billion versions of it, but not taking 5, 10 years to do it, doing it in a matter of weeks, months, under a year. Then we want to test it in a virtual human trial before it gets to the first actual human patient. So this is a revolution that if you asked me this question 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have said it's impossible. But 3 years ago, the world had a breakthrough. We now, as humans, have a superpower of modeling the world down to the atomic level. This superpower comes to us from this merger of chemistry, of physics, of biology, and of AI.
So when we talk about the fact that we're living through one of the most transformative times in modern history, this is something to point out, something that was not possible 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
That is now possible because of quantum. Tell us about your company, SandboxAQ. You recently collaborated with several organizations, Sanofi, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, for breakthrough discoveries. Can you share one example for us of something you've developed that you're proud of recently?
Sure. When we work with UCSF, work with Michael J. Fox Foundation, with Sanofi, be it spin-outs of universities, be it labs at universities, be it large pharma companies like Sanofi, It's very exciting because we can change the way we actually get the drugs out to the clinic and then out to patients. Think of Michael J. Fox. He started this foundation, of course, because he got Parkinson's. People around the world have this disease and also related diseases. Think of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Think of MS. Think of other neurodegen diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia. What family in the world has not been impacted by these neurodegen diseases? And it's going to grow, unfortunately, because we're living longer. More people will actually be impacted. But after 40 years of research in Alzheimer's, in Parkinson's, we have a little bit to show, but not very much. And so now comes along these tool sets, these superpowers, Mariana, that allow us to say, wait a second, we can now actually model these molecules, these drugs, these potential candidates, and the target, just like you'd see a space station docking, bing, 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 dock. We can now do that billions of times in the AI before we even put it into the first human trial. And so for Michael J. Fox Foundation, we're developing with them and University of Dundee in Scotland, new treatments for Parkinson's. With Sanofi, new biomarkers. As much as treatments are very important, we also have to think about diagnostics. The earlier we can diagnose something, the better we can diagnose a disease, the earlier we can treat it. And so with Sanofi, of course, there's wonderful treatments to be done, but also diagnostics.
Jack, this is one of the most hopeful takeaways that I'm going to be parting with after this conference as someone, as you say, everybody has suffered, dementia in their family or Alzheimer's, so it's very relatable to most folks here and most folks watching. Tell us about where businesses and governments can create real value using this technology.
Well, this is a moment where people talk about AI, they often talk about the AI companies themselves, and it's very, very exciting. SandboxAQ, our company, we were inside Alphabet, now we're independent, we raised a large round of capital, Eric Schmidt's our chairman, I serve as CEO. It's very exciting to talk about the AI companies, but you know what's more exciting? What's more exciting than the AI companies is the applications. When we think about energy companies, so we talked about biopharma, we talked about Sanofi, Michael J. Fox, and others, but let's also talk about the energy companies. We talk about utilities and generating electricity, storing electricity, batteries. Battery technology has not changed really in 40 years. It gets better by about 5 to 7% per year with lithium-ion technology, but now's the time to leapfrog that. And so for businesses, it's a time to look at not only the peripheral stuff of how do I do customer service? Yes. Use large language models to cut your costs in customer service. Use large language models to create marketing copy. Use large language models to summarize and to interact with customers. But the core of an automotive company, of an energy company, is creating physical things. When we talk about the finance world, many people here at FII manage money, assets. How do we optimize that portfolio? How do we look at risk in an increasingly complex world of structured instruments? We need quantitative AI. That's what can actually help us in this realm.
And another pillar of FII, with which Richard Atias has mentioned at length, is education, and which is a priority here in the Kingdom and in the Global South. Tell me about how we can innovate in education using this technology.
Absolutely. When governments think about the future of their country, particularly right here in the Kingdom and other countries in the Gulf region and other countries around the world, you have a very young population, a population hungry for development, for change, for growth. And so how do we deliver education at scale? If we do it the old way of classrooms and so on and so forth, it's going to take us a long time, and I don't think we're going to be successful. But what AI now can do, both LLMs, who have a great role to play, and quantitative AI, LQMs, can combine together to create content that is personalized to that individual, that tracks that individual. Because I think all of us have the memories of either being bored in a certain classroom or being overwhelmed in a classroom. It's never the exact right speed. And so now with AI, we can actually bring that in, not only to train young people, K through 12, but also the retraining and upskilling of adults as well. And so what I'm seeing happen here in the Kingdom, what I'm seeing happening in other Gulf countries and around the world, is that educators and governments are starting to say, let's do this investment. Let's invest big in our future. Here's the good news. We don't have to wait 10, 20 years to see that return. We're starting to see that return just in a few years because of the speed up of using AI in education.
And I love that you mentioned reskilling and upskilling, because it is what will be needed for workers to be able to adapt to the jobs of the future.
That's correct.
Now, as you know, here at FII, we
Can
also...
I say one more thing about education?
Go ahead.
I think in the audience we have Crown Prince Hussein here from Jordan. And I just want to highlight that just about a year ago, he and I were having a conversation about education and government. And we talked about what could be done, for example, in a country like Jordan. Again, a young population, majority of the population, quite young and looking to the future. And so we talked about an innovative idea from France called School 42. School 42 is a free school. It's a school that's one of the benefactors is Xavier Niel, the philanthropist in France. And we talked about it and said, why don't we bring this to Jordan? And I'm very, very proud to share with everyone here, I hope it's okay, that Jordan has implemented the first School 42 in the MENA region. So I want to...
Can we get a big round of applause?
Recognize that. And 2 more are coming to Jordan as well. So I think that's an example where leadership, in this case in the country of Jordan, with His Majesty and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, took by the reins and said, let's bring innovative ideas of this kind of education for the future. School 42 focuses on coding and technology and the future. So there are real-world examples right now, right here in the kingdom and surrounding us, of what can be done by government.
I love when we break news here at FII.
This is it, right here.
Congratulations, Your Royal Highness. Jack, I have you for just over a minute, so I want to finish with a quick lightning round before we get to another big release from you. So tell me, what is one book that is on your nightstand right now?
Well, there's a new history of the world, which we can put online, that I often look to the future, but also you want to look at history sometimes to understand the future. And so I have a few history books on my nightstand right now that I'm reading about that. And another book I'm reading is about quantum physics, but it's about quantum physics thought of in the sense of information. How do we think of our world not as physical things, but as embodiments of information itself? Claude Shannon and Alan Turing and others taught us that there's a new way to look at the world as manipulating and understanding and transmitting information around
us. So it's light reading before
Very, very light reading.
Very
light reading, yes.
What is one podcast or one series that you're obsessed with?
Moonshots by Peter Diamandis is a fantastic podcast. I also listen to Peter Attia and some of the other health and wellness podcasts too.
Tell me, what is one word that you think best characterizes your journey?
Potential. I'm very excited about the potential of human beings. When I look at someone, I see them where they are today, I know there's more potential. I know they can actually change the world. What I try to do when I mentor folks, when I build teams, one of the things I love about business, what I love about being an entrepreneur and a CEO, is building teams. I'm blessed with an incredible team at SandboxAQ. We have 85 PhDs. We have another 80 engineers. We have other people in business, HR, finance, all these functions coming together. We just got together at Harvard MIT for our annual summit. It was literally buzzing with energy. That's what I love when thinking about how people can take their potential and realize that potential in the world.
We are 5 years away from Vision 2030 here in the kingdom. What is one word that you think best describes what will happen here in 5 years?
Oh, God. I think that the ability for impact, I would say the word impact is the best word to me, characterizing what's happened here in the kingdom. The kingdom is not about just having discussions. We have these discussions, and then it goes right to action.
And impact is what you see here on this center stage and in this conversation. Jack, we're out of time, but I do want to say that your book, AI or Die, is coming out Q1 of next year.
Q1, yeah, it's a very subtle title, AI or Die. Just hints at it, right? But I think actually it is the truth today. As companies, as governments, as countries, as individuals, we need to think about how we use this technology to augment ourselves.
So next year,
take the future.
You have to get this book, AI or Die. I'm going to ask you to sign it as
Sure.
we walk off stage. Thank you so much,
Excellent.
Jack Hidary. Big round of applause for him.